Welcome to Fantasy Football Today Express. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. I'm Heath Cummings. He's Dave Richard. We're breaking down the Thursday Thanksgiving games, the Friday day after Thanksgiving game. Dave, that's 4 games. It's a lot. Let's get started. We are starting with, let's go in reverse order on the Thursday games, because I want to talk about the Dolphins and the Packers and the cold weather for the Dolphins. Frozen fish, supposed to be 26 degrees at kickoff. Who do you like in this game? Who are you afraid of?
I love the running backs. Josh Jacobs and Devon Achane are must starts. They would be a part of any DFS lineup I put together for the Thanksgiving Day slate as well. And then outside of Jonnu Smith and I guess Tyreek Hill, I get a little nervous. And that includes Tua Tagovailoa, whose numbers have been great lately, but I'm worried about him not having a lot of huge plays. And he's just going to have to continue doing this dink dunk act that he's been doing pretty much the last 2 years in Miami, and hoping that his guys score touchdowns after the catch. If it happens, he'll come through with decent numbers. He's a low-end starting fantasy quarterback, but I think I weigh him versus other guys like Goff, Kyler, Caleb Williams. And as we record this on Wednesday morning, I'm still not totally locked in on Tua as like a slam dunk must-start type of fantasy quarterback. Waddle, I thought he had a great game last week because the Patriots played a lot of man coverage. I don't think the Packers are going to do that. Packers usually play a lot of zone coverage, and that just limits the upside for both wide receivers, to be honest with you. And during our main show, I started moving Tyreek Hill down in my rankings, much more of a middling number 2 fantasy wide receiver than a top 15 type guy where I had him ranked. And Waddle's not even going to be in my top 36. I'm just not going to buy into him doing what he did last week, a second game in a row, short week, cold weather, on the road, zone defense, just makes it all kind of fall apart. Jonnu Smith is a must-start fantasy tight end. The stat that I gave on the show, I love this stat. With Tua on the field against zone coverage, Jonnu Smith has nearly a 30% target per route run rate. That is humongous. And he's first on the Dolphins, Achane second, Tyreek's third, and Jalen Waddle's at 14.5%. He's last.
I would start Love over Tua, but they're both QB2s. I think all the wide receivers in this game are wide receiver 3s. I'd go Reed, Tyreek, Waddle, Watson, but mostly agree with what Dave said. Let's talk about the best game on Thursday. It's the Bears. It's the Lions. Are we getting a bonanza, Dave?
I don't know if we're going to get a full, like, out-and-out bonanza, because I think the Lions they're going to be able to run the ball very well against Chicago. Their run defense is really falling apart. And I want to make the case for Jared Goff to be like a slam dunk top 5 type of fantasy quarterback. Bears pass rush, really since Montez Sweat has come back from his injury, has not been the same. They haven't been getting to the quarterback nearly as much. And anytime Jared Goff is comfortable, which is most of the time, and especially when he's at home, he does put up some good numbers. I think Goff is worth starting. I might put Tua ahead of him. It's real close between those two, and I still haven't decided. So that's something I go back and forth on. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a must, and Jameson, I think, is a decent number 3 receiver, more so in non-PPR than full PPR. So the Lions side of it, they should put up plenty of points. It's the Bears side of it where I think just a lot of heavy volume as far as passing goes for Caleb Williams, and he has looked spectacular the last 2 weeks. Really started to look better. A little bit more screen passes have come into his diet. He's not holding the ball nearly as much. His offensive line is healthier than it's been. And his completion rate's gone up by 10 percentage points in his last 2 games compared to his first 9. So Caleb is kind of close to being a top 12 quarterback for me. I'm excited about just him falling into decent production. It's the lack of touchdowns. We know that that's something that's been a problem for him throwing the football all year long. He doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. And if he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns, it's hard to look at him as a top 10, maybe even top 12 type of fantasy quarterback.
I've got Love and Tua behind Goff and Caleb, who are QB 12 and QB 13. DJ Moore, then Rome Odunze, then Keenan Allen, all number 3 wide receivers, all ahead of the wide receivers in the Packers and Dolphins game. For me, we've got 2 more games to go. Let's take a short break first. We've got one more game, Dave, on Thursday, and it's the Giants and the Cowboys.
Right.
And this one shouldn't take long. Man, it's going to be gross. Who do you like in this game?
I like the Cowboys DST. I think that they're going to have a pretty good game. The Giants' offensive line looked miserable last week. I don't see them getting any better. So that's bad news for everybody involved on that offense, including Malik Neighbors. I would have mild expectations for Neighbors. Might get to 15 PPR points, and that's just based on the fact that he could get 12 targets in the game. I don't want to trust Tyrone Tracy. I don't think he'll get the ball near the goal line. That's for sure. The fumbling issue is going to cost him, and I don't know how much he's going to play. If I had to use a Giants running back, I might pick Devin Singletary, to be completely honest with you, because I just don't know who's going to do what. I'd try and stay away from them both. I'm going to stay away from other Giants players other than Malik Neighbors. And then on the Dallas side of the ball, Rico Dowdle's interesting because the matchup is so good. I get a little skittish thinking about that offensive line and what that looks like for Dallas. And if they're not paving the way for Dowdle, could that be a problem for him? And Dowdle doesn't score rushing touchdowns, and Zeke does. And you brought this up on our main show that Zeke likes to jump into the Salvation Army pot when he scores on Thanksgiving. Could that be something that happens again this week, especially if the Cowboys just have their way and manhandle the poor New York Giants football team?
I've got Tracy over Dowdle, but they're both borderline RB2s, both just ahead of DeAndre Swift. Lamb and Neighbors, the only must starts. I still am sticking with Schoonmaker. If I streamed him last week, we don't expect Jake Ferguson to play. We've got a Friday game, Dave. It's the Raiders. It's the Chiefs. Is it just as easy as start your Chiefs, don't start your Raiders?
Which Chiefs running back do you start? Because it looks like Isaiah Pacheco is going to play. We don't know for sure that he's going to play, and we also don't know for sure how much he's going to play. So that makes me nervous to start both Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. And the Raiders' run defense, go look at their last 5 games. They've actually been not bad. They did a great job against Kareem Hunt the first time he played against them earlier this year. Teams run on the Raiders a lot. They don't all necessarily break through. This is not just because the Broncos' run game looked terrible against the Raiders last week. This is a multi-week thing that Las Vegas has cooking. I think Patrick Mahomes has an outstanding game throwing the football. Want to use him. Kelsey's a must. I think Hopkins and Xavier Worthy are number 3 type of wide receivers. And to that end, in the Chiefs DST, yes, you start your Chiefs. The Raiders that you can feel good about, Bowers, obviously, and I think Jacoby Myers, and that's it. Not trusting any of the running backs. If you picked up Amir Abdullah, it might be for a waste, and there's really no one else to really talk about for the Raiders offense.
Amir Abdullah is going to be my favorite running back in this game, even if Alexander Madison plays, but I agree. He's nothing more than a flex. We got a couple of questions. It's because I don't think anybody's going to run on the Chiefs in this game, and I think Abdullah has been pretty good in the passing game and will still be the passing downs back if Madison comes back. A couple of quick questions from the chat. Jordan Love or Jaden Daniels?
Daniels.
Dallas Cowboys or Bills defense?
Dallas is who I'd go with.
Love or Knicks? I think we'll get a lot of Jordan Love questions this week.
Yeah, and I would go with Bo Nix. I would ride that hot hand, even against Cleveland.
Stroud or Tua?
Tua.
I'm going with CJ Stroud against the Jacksonville defense. They've been awful, and I really just do not trust Tua in cold weather. He's Dave Richard. I'm Heath Cummings. That was Fantasy Football Today Express. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.